Hi, my name is Marcus Chen. I'm 32 years old. 3 weeks ago, my sister's husband humiliated me at their anniversary party, calling me a beggar in front of 50 people. What Richard didn't know was that I had just sold my tech company for $1.2 billion. The next morning, I made one phone call that would destroy everything my family thought they knew about power and money. This is how I made them beg. I'm the youngest of 3 kids. My brother David is a hotshot corporate lawyer. My sister Jennifer married Richard Thornton. Old money, expensive suits, and an ego the size of Manhattan. And then there's me. The disappointment. The one who wasted 7 years on a tech startup while my family built real careers. For years they treated me like I was broken. Every family dinner, same questions. When are you getting a real job, Marcus? Still playing with computers? My own father laughed when I offered to help with his struggling medical supply business. I need real money, not whatever's in your piggy bank. My 30th birthday. Jennifer went into labor. The whole family rushed to the hospital. Not one person remembered it was supposed to be my birthday dinner. I showed up at the hospital, and my mom looked surprised I was even there. "Oh, Marcus, what are you doing here?" I spent my 30th birthday alone with cold Chinese food. But I swallowed it. Every insult, every dismissal, every time they chose David's golf tournament over my company's award ceremony. I told myself family was complicated, that they loved me in their own way. Then came the garden party. 6 months ago, Richard's family threw this massive anniversary celebration at their Westchester estate. 200 guests, champagne fountains, live orchestra. My mom begged me to come. "Please, Marcus, show up for your sister just this once." I caught a red eye from San Francisco. I'd been working on the biggest deal of my life. A defense contractor wanted to acquire Shield Tech, my cybersecurity company. The offer was insane. But I put it all aside because Mom said family needed me. I showed up in my best suit, exhausted but present. The party was everything you'd expect. String quartet, waiters in white gloves, old money everywhere. I got a beer and tried to mingle, but these people had zero interest in Silicon Valley startups. Then I heard my name. Richard was holding court with his business friends, loud enough for half the party to hear. "My wife's little brother," Richard said, gesturing with his champagne. 32 years old, still playing with computers. Lives in some sad apartment. Shows up looking like he rolled out of bed. His friends laughed. Then my own brother joined in. David's voice cut across the garden. "Honestly, Richard, we've been patient. But Marcus just isn't driven like us. He's comfortable being mediocre." Mediocre. My own brother called me mediocre. I must have made a sound because Richard turned and saw me. For 1 second he looked uncomfortable. Then his face twisted into something cruel. "Marcus, didn't see you lurking there. Were you hitting up the dessert table? Couldn't afford dinner before you came." His audience laughed louder. Everyone was watching now. I stood frozen. This was it. Someone would defend me. My parents, my sister, anyone. My father stared at his shoes. My mother looked away. Jennifer whispered to someone, both watching me with pity. David smiled. Richard wasn't finished. "Seriously, folks, my brother-in-law has been starting a company for 7 years. Still broke. Still living that failed entrepreneur lifestyle." He turned to his crowd, playing to them. "When do you admit the dream's dead and get a real job?" "Richard," I started. "Marcus, don't make a scene," Jennifer snapped. "He's just joking." "Am I though?" Richard leaned against the bar, grinning. "I'm saying what everyone's thinking. Not everyone can be a winner. Some people are just meant to be the family's charity case." He raised his glass in a mock toast. "To Marcus. At least you tried, buddy." The crowd laughed nervously. My mother's face was red, but she said nothing. Dad finally muttered, "That's enough, Richard." But it was weak, meaningless. "Is it though, Robert?" Richard turned to my father. "Don't you wish he'd just get a normal job? Do something reliable instead of this superhero startup fantasy?" "My company is I started. Shield Tech. Richard threw his head back laughing. You gave it a superhero name. Look Marcus, I'm trying to help. This startup dream is over. I'm 32. Time to grow up and get a real career. I know people who might get you an entry-level IT position. Something with a steady paycheck. 50 people watching. My family silent. And in that crystal moment, everything became clear. Smiled. Peaceful. It unnerved Richard more than any outburst. You know what, Richard? You're right. I should face reality. He blinked, surprised. The reality is, I've spent 7 years building something real while you've lived off Daddy's money. The reality is I thought family mattered. But I was wrong. I set down my beer. Jennifer, Richard, congratulations. Mom, Dad, David, thank you for making everything clear. I won't waste your time anymore. Marcus, don't be dramatic, Jennifer started. I'm not. I'm being realistic. Goodbye. I walked out. No one followed. I heard Richard laugh and say something about me being too sensitive. In my hotel room, I pulled out my phone. My business partner Jake had been texting all evening. Dude, the DoD contractor came back. Final offer, $1.2 billion. They need an answer by Friday. I'd been hesitant for months. Shield Tech was my baby. But sitting there, humiliated by people who thought I was worthless, I typed, accept the offer. Start the paperwork. Jake called immediately. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. 72 hours later, the wire transfer hit. After taxes and splitting with Jake, I personally cleared $520 million. $500 million. I sat staring at my bank account and started laughing. Then I made phone calls. First, my Aunt Patricia, the one family member who'd always been kind, the one they excluded for asking uncomfortable questions. Aunt Patricia, how much is Dad's business worth? Maybe $8 million. Why, Marcus? How much debt? $3 million. He made bad investments. He and your mother took a second mortgage to save the business. They're barely holding on. Does anyone know Shield Tech was acquired? I don't think so, sweetheart. Perfect. Within 2 days, I had a complete financial picture of my entire family. Dad's business drowning in debt. David leveraged to his eyeballs. Fancy apartment, private schools, country club memberships he couldn't afford. One bad quarter from disaster. But Jennifer and Richard. That was the jackpot. Richard's trust fund was almost gone. His father, disgusted with Richard's behavior, had cut his distributions by 60%. Richard and Jennifer's entire lifestyle, the estate, the cars, the parties, was funded by credit and fumes. They were months away from being broke. And none of them knew I could solve all their problems with pocket change. I spent 2 weeks making quiet moves. Bought Dad's business debt through a shell company. Identified David's major clients and started offering them better options. Learned which banks held Richard's loans. All while ignoring every call and text. The messages piled up. Mom. Marcus, honey, please call. Richard feels terrible. Dad. You're being childish. Jennifer. You're going to ghost the family over a stupid joke? Grow up. I ignored them all. 10 days later, Mom called, panicked. Marcus, please. The business. Someone's calling in our debt. We might lose everything. Your father is beside himself. Please come home. I'm actually in New York for business. I can stop by Saturday. Oh, thank God. Yes, please. We'll have family dinner. Perfect. Saturday, I walked into my parents' house wearing jeans and a plain black shirt. They were all there, looking stressed and desperate. Marcus. Mom rushed to hug me. Thank you for coming. Everyone sit down. I have things to say. They exchanged nervous glances but sat. Marcus, look, Dad started. We know you're upset, but I'm not upset. I'm grateful. That party made things very clear. Marcus, please, Jennifer said. Richard was drunk. We all feel terrible. Do you? 'Cause none of you said anything. You stood there silent while Richard called me a charity case, while David called me mediocre. You agreed with every word. That's not fair, David protested. When's my birthday, David? What? My birthday. When is it? He hesitated. July. April 17th. You're my brother for 32 years and don't know my birthday. I turned to Jennifer. What's my company called? Shield something. Shield Tech. 7 years, and you don't even know its name. I looked at my parents. How many of my company events have you attended? Mom's eyes filled with tears. We've been busy. Never too busy for David's events. Or Jennifer's parties. Just mine. Pulled out a folder. Let's talk about why you really called me here. Your business is failing, Dad. $3 million in debt. The company holding that debt can call it due any time, forcing you into bankruptcy. You'd lose everything. Dad went pale. How? David, you're $400,000 in credit card debt. Your rent is $8,000 a month. Private school is $60,000 per kid. You're drowning trying to keep up appearances. David flushed red. You have no right. Jennifer, Richard smiled. Richard, your trust fund is almost gone. Your father cut you off by 60% last year. You're living on credit, mortgaging your future. You're going to be broke long before you inherit anything. Richard stood up, purple with rage. How dare you? Sit down. My voice was ice. Something in my tone made him collapse back onto the couch. You all need money. Desperately. And you've been trying to ask me for help without admitting you were wrong. Without admitting the family screw-up might have his life together. Marcus, please, Mom cried. We're family. Let me show you something. I turned my laptop around. On screen, Shield Tech acquired by defense giant for $1.2 billion. Total silence. 5 pairs of eyes staring. That's, David's voice cracked. That's your company. Closed the deal 2 weeks ago. The day after the party, actually. Funny timing. $1.2 billion, Jennifer whispered. My half after taxes was $520 million, I said casually. So yes, that hobby you mocked made me $500 million. Richard made a choking sound. I just stared. Mom covered her mouth. Marcus, Dad managed. That's incredible. Why didn't you tell us? Tell you. I tried for 7 years. Every time I mention my company, you change the subject. Remember, Dad. Get a real job. Mom. Just a phase. David calling me mediocre. Richard calling me a charity case. I leaned forward. You didn't want to know because you'd decided I was a failure. Now you need money. And suddenly you want to pretend you believed in me all along. We made mistakes, Mom said desperately. We were wrong. But we're family. Doesn't that count? It does. That's why I'm here. Relief flooded their faces. Here's what's happening. Dad, the company that bought your debt. That's mine. I can bankrupt you with a phone call. Horror replaced relief. But I won't. I'll restructure with 0 interest. 10 years to repay. One condition. I want 49% equity and a board seat. You keep control, but I have a voice. Marcus, that's generous. David, I'm buying your credit card debt. All of it. But you're scaling back. Smaller apartment. Public school. No country club. You'll live within your means and check in with me quarterly. I'm your financial advisor now. David looked humiliated but nodded. Jennifer, Richard. I'm paying off all your debts. Clean slate. But Richard gets a real job. 9 to 5 actual work. I don't care if it's Starbucks or finance. But you'll work and support your family through your own efforts. Richard's face went scarlet. You can't tell me. It's an offer, not an order. Keep drowning in debt if you want. Keep pretending you're rich while the bank forecloses. Your choice. I looked at all of them. I could write a check for all your problems and never notice the money was gone. I could buy this house 10 times over. I could fund Richard's lifestyle with my coffee budget. Silence. But I won't. Not because I'm petty. Because you need to understand what you did. You made me feel worthless for 7 years because you measured worth by the wrong things. By titles and status and who married well. We're sorry, Mom sobbed. Sorry isn't enough. You need to be better. Final condition, family therapy. Monthly for a year. We're figuring out why this family became so toxic. Non-negotiable. Long silence. Then Dad stood and walked over. You've become a man I should have been proud of years ago. I'm sorry, son. His voice broke. I accept your terms. All of them. Me too, David said quietly. I don't deserve this, but thank you. Jennifer nodded, crying. I'm ashamed I didn't defend you. I'm sorry. Richard stood slowly and extended his hand. You're a better man than me. I'm sorry for what I said. I'll get a job. I'll prove I'm not useless. I shook his hand. I don't think you're useless. I think you've never had to try. Now you will. That night we signed papers. I transferred money, restructured debts, and set up systems to save them while forcing them to grow. When it was done, we actually talked. Really talked. We were scared, Dad admitted. Your path was so different. We couldn't measure it. Rather than admit we didn't know if you'd succeed, we convinced ourselves you were failing. I was jealous, David said. You pursued what you loved. I took the safe path and I've been miserable. Tearing you down was easier than celebrating you. I married for security, Jennifer cried. Seeing you take risks made me face my own choices. I took it out on you. Didn't fix everything. But it was a start. Now 3 months later everything's different. Dad's company is breaking even. David moved to Queens, kids in public school, and he looks lighter somehow. Richard got a job at a financial firm and actually talks with pride about helping clients. Jennifer's back in school, finding herself again. We do family therapy monthly. It's painful but necessary. We're unpacking decades of dysfunction. Last week we had family dinner. Nothing fancy, just a regular restaurant. David told jokes. Jennifer talked about her classes. Richard shared a story about winning over a difficult client. Dad raised his glass. To Marcus. For saving this family. To Marcus. They chorused. Actually, I said. To second chances. To families that do the work. To still being here, still trying. Later Jennifer caught me outside. At the party when Richard said those things. Did you already know about the sale? The final offer came that night, actually. While he was calling me a beggar. She shook her head. You could have destroyed him right there. Announced it in front of everyone. That would have been petty. This way, making them face their choices, this actually creates change. He hugged me. You're better than I am. I'm just trying to be better than I was. Now I'm in my Manhattan apartment. I moved east to be near family, reflecting on everything. My family isn't perfect, but they're trying. Dad asks genuine questions about my life. David texts me randomly just to connect. Jennifer calls about her journey. Richard texted last week. Just closed my first major client. Thanks for pushing me. I actually feel proud. The money. I'm using it thoughtfully. Started a foundation for cybersecurity education. Invested in startups run by people like me. Big dreams, no family support. Sometimes people ask if I regret helping them. If I should have let them drown. But I didn't help them for them. I helped them for me. Because the best revenge isn't making someone suffer. It's becoming so successful they have to face their own prejudices, their own failures. My sister's husband called me a beggar. Then I withdrew $500 million from the bank of his assumptions. The room went silent. But more importantly, they started to listen. Not to the charity case. Not to the disappointment. To Marcus Chen, who proved success looks different than they imagined. That's the sweetest revenge. Not destruction but forcing them to grow. Not pain but teaching. Not cruelty but justice. I didn't just prove them wrong. I made them better people while staying true to myself. Richard called me a beggar. I withdrew $1 billion in dignity and respect. The whole family's worldview shattered. And from those pieces we're building something real. Every hurt, every dismissal, every humiliation, worth it. That's my story. The story of how the family disappointment became the architect of their salvation. How I proved that power with grace beats power with cruelty every time. And I sleep well knowing I chose justice over revenge.